Moving on from Harry Barnes,
Harry Barnes, Harry B.
another guy I want to talk about is Davion Mitchell. Not yeah,
Dave? Good friend Dave. Where's he from? Do you know where Davion Mitchell was born? Or lives? Or born, I guess. Where then
I
lives?
think I think he's from Georgia. Because didn't he
Georgia.
go to Georgia before he went to Baylor?
I didn't know that, to be honest.
Something. He went somewhere.
Um,
Maybe.
I don't know, just because we got like Carmichael Dave.
Yeah, Hinesville, Georgia. I think that's in
Yes,
Atlanta.
okay. That sounds familiar. Hinesville Dave. That doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, yeah,
But
that was really climactic.
Hinesville Dave, Baylor Dave? I don't know. Davion DeMonte Earl Mitchell.
Oh, and just for reference, that's nowhere near Atlanta.
No, he went to Auburn too, not Georgia.
Auburn. Well,
Liberty County. I'm just trying to like Liberty County Dave. NCAA champion Dave. Yeah, Davion Mitchell he's strung together a couple nice games without Fox now. Like we were saying when Herter got his 2 games where he had the high assists, 9 and 8 assist games. It was the games that Fox was out. And Davion Mitchell, after having a bad game last time Fox was out, like what was this? About a month ago, I believe February 3rd,
yeah.
against the Pacers. He was terrible. Terrible starting in place of Fox. And that was like a big reason the Kings lost the game because it seemed like it was 4-5 out there on offense. But so like he kind of had that concern coming in against OKC or when Fox sat against OKC that first game. Like, all right, let's see what Mitchell can do. And he's he's played well in that. He played well in that game. And he played well on Monday night against the Pelicans in place of Fox. What do you have to say on it?
Well, I thought it was interesting the first game that he played without Fox this past week or so, whatever it was, the second game against OKC, because he went ahead and hit his first three-pointers. How many points did he score? He finished with like 15. And everybody was singing his praises and all that. And I thought he had a good game. He hit his threes, but the question had to come up. It's like, well, what happened? Everybody knows it's like once he hits 1 3, he has a little bit of a rhythm going. He's going to hit probably multiple in that game. What happens if he doesn't hit that first 3? Because he didn't do a lot of penetrating in that OKC game. And I made note of that, just being a Debbie Downer. Because he did have a good game. Like if you score 15 points starting in place of Fox, bringing the defense that he brings, that's a good game. But I felt like being more of leaning on his offensive strength, which is driving to the rim, I think that would have been better and would have been a better sign for how confident, how free he feels out there. Well, when he got the other opportunity against the Pelicans to do that, he did penetrate into the paint, and he hit 3 threes again, scored 15 points, but he had more assists. He had a couple of buckets there at the rim. I think he had 1 bucket at the rim in that OKC game, but that was in transition. Like he only drove into the paint once and got 1 assist from it. And he did that a couple of times. I think half his assists, which were 6 in the New Orleans game, came off of driving into the paint. And so, I mean, like that game against New Orleans, I mean, that was easily his best game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Just
he played really well.
He did everything that he needed to do. And because, again, it's like that OKC game, he hit the threes. But what if he didn't hit the threes? Would we just been content with the fact that he's going to go 0 of 5 from 3 or whatever the situation is and score 4 points in a starting role and God knows what else happens? And he did it all. He hit the threes, but he still kept up the aggression. And hopefully that's a really good sign for him. I mean, he's really good in his role. But I do think that, like, if you're the reason that the ball gets taken out of his hands a lot is Monk. And I just think Monk is just like, he's obviously been in the league longer. I think he's just more prone to go ahead and make that right move, to get in that kind of like, to form a quick 2-man game with Sabonis. Because like right up there with Fox and Herter, Monk's 2-man game, making an argument for the best one on the team. And it almost just seemed like Davion just kind of gave way to that. And it's like, no, dude, you can command the ball as well. I mean, not trying to say that anyone's better than the other, or, you know, that it would be better if Davion was doing X, Y, or Z, but just in terms of like making sure that he does feel free. to do what he needs to do on the floor. I think that New Orleans game was a huge sign and easily his best game of the season. And given the circumstances of having to win, not having one of your all-stars against a Western Conference team that's really vying for the playoffs, like that might have been his best game of his career. Is that crazy to say?
No, I don't think so. With the circumstances, right? I think
Mhm.
he showed up and plays for Fox in the game. You kind of want to win too, as you're trying to inch towards that second seed. Yeah, the Pelicans are in there trying to, keep their playoff hopes alive, and yeah, he filled in for Fox excellently. Where last year when he's starting games is kind of like, all right, well the Kings aren't even in the playoffs at this point. Who cares? But no, he played really well, made threes. Like we were talking about, he's really good at driving to the basket. So it was really nice to see him attack the rim like he did on Monday night. So I can totally see, making that debate that it was his best game of his young career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good job. I mean, like it felt like when the All-Star break came around and we were doing like the first half grades discussing that, like it was so easy to kind of not necessarily be down on Davion Mitchell because what he does on the defensive end is like aside from Domas's overall effect on the team, it's probably one of the most consistent things you get from any of the players is Davion's defense. But just the unsure aspect of his offensive game and not just like everybody knows he's capable of doing it, but it's like once you start seeing like is he unsure? Like what's going on here? Like it just seemed like all we could do was pinpoint that Indiana game and be like, ugh. I mean, like I get it's different circumstances and whatnot, but it's like, are you showing a lot of growth in your second year, which is like kind of big to be
Mm-hmm.
starting to make that jump. And it's kind of similar to what we were talking about with Kevin Herter and the fatigue talk. Just a couple of games makes you kind of forget about it, and now it's not even an issue anymore. It's kind of the same thing with Davion. You almost want to let these last two games and the fact that he progressed from the OKC game to the New Orleans game to be able to go ahead and utilize his offensive strength, as we're saying. It's like you almost want to just kind of be like, well, there you go. You're right of the ship, Davion. Just as long as he closes out the season from here with a little bit more confidence, a little more understanding of what he can do, um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be good. But again, we'll
Yeah,
have to see what happens with Fox back and everything like that.
yeah, but it's like the way that Davion ended the season when Fox went down last year, and he was started so well. He was scoring the ball really well. It's like this guy could be like a starter in this league, really. And so I get it, that's a starting job. And then he moved back to the bench this year, just for the whole year essentially. And it's like, man, like you're so like you can score so well as a starter. Like what makes you change so much as a bench guy? And so it's kind of been disappointing because you're kind of building off that into last season. And to see him, he's still a really good defensive player, but his offense has just been kind of non existent at points in this season. So it's kind of been a letdown, like you're saying, like you really want to see that growth in all areas of his game as a sophomore. Um, so it is nice seeing him, especially when he did get a start back in Indiana. He was bad, so it was nice seeing him get these two games, like these two starts, get back on track. But you still want to see more out of him on the offensive end when he comes off the bench because he has it in him. He's just not doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's the hope here is that he's kind of reoriented his viewpoint on what he's able to do in terms of impact. Because one of the things that I almost forgot to note, really important, Mike Brown said about Davion Mitchell what he often says about Fox, which is that like Davion as the head of the snake, the primary head of the snake with Fox out, he was overriding calls, making his own calls, setting up his teammates on his own, doing things like that. When he takes initiative, you know, things obviously work out. He can utilize every aspect of his game at that point. So hopefully that's what it's done, is that it's allowed him to understand, gain a better familiarity with where he can kind of take that initiative when it's necessary. Because again, it's like you got Monk going in there, and Monk's commanding a lot of the ball handling. It's not like Monk's saying like it's my ball. It's like Davion's just not. It seemed like, and again, this could be just kind of a feel. I'm not really like backing this up with a lot of evidence, but it's like you get a second year player like that. I mean, he's going to kind of willingly take a back seat on the offensive end to Malik Monk, and
Mm-hmm.
Monk's great, but it's like if you have both of them able to do that, because you see
Yeah,
Monk and
imagine.
Fox play together, and they'll kind of like throw off or switch off on ball handling duties and whatnot. But it just seems like Davion Mitchell, it's kind of on him to again, to use the word again, take that initiative to make the impact, the ultimate impact that he's actually capable of making. Because he's better. That's one of the things that was so frustrating about him with the first half of the season, quote unquote, was that it's like, dude, we know you're so much better. You're not as fast as Fox, but you're damn near as quick as him.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't seem like he was ever showing that he knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it's a good sign going forward.
I agree. I hope so.